Oh, sorry, I'm professional. You just caught me looking back through some of the programmes I've got lying around the house. But forget that. Welcome, my friends, to this, the climax of me trying to win a VW scholarship drive. Before we get into it, there are a couple of things you should probably clarify. First of all, I've now got a brace on my face. Yet, such is my commitment to motorsport, I've decided to fit a roll cage to my teeth. It's actually a little bit more about the fact that if you spend a lot of time editing your own face, you can get a bit paranoid about your teeth. But don't worry, I'm getting it all fixed. Hey! Secondly, thanks very much, everyone that watched the last video. It's now got over 5,000 views. All the comments have been fairly nice. Well, I mean, there have been some that I've just looked at and thought, oh, but most of them have been great. So let's get into it. So far for the scholarship, I've covered most of the bases. I've been to races, I've talked to drivers, I've met Tony and the team, I've learned how to race on a sim, I've got a decent computer, everything's going pretty rosy, but there is one thing that I haven't really talked about that I think is intrinsic to the success of every driver: fitness. I didn't know how fit I should be. So, obviously, I asked them.
I try and do something every day, most days. It's not as critical because you're in a sprint race. We obviously haven't got the high. I mean, you take a lot of it for granted because you're doing it, but where your fitness will get you is over a long weekend. But you want to try and be as physically fit as you can, because if you're physically fit, then you stay mentally fit. And it's all a mental game, because up here controls these, which hold the steering wheel, and it controls everything. So it's all up here.
I'm not fit right now, and I've got basically, it's not until December. I've got 9 months.
I'd say end of November, get those 5 quick sessions in. You know, kind of like for a school exam or something. You know, like, oh, I've got to cram the info.
Just run for a bit.
Yeah, I think you should do that, definitely.
Now, Mike was clearly joking. Well, I say clearly joking. I do happen to know that he prefers the way that James Hunt would prepare for a race rather than the way that Max Verstappen would prepare for a race. So who knows, maybe he wasn't. But still wasn't really clear as to how much I should do for a scholarship. After all, I'm not racing a car, I'm just going to do a few laps. It's not like I need to be prepared. And then I was listening to the fabulous Tin Top Tuesday. Alan Hyde interviewed Tony Gillam, and I heard this.
To be out of the car for a lengthy period of time, it does take a while. You say you're back at the gym, sort of pretty much full on. Do you find that very necessary?
Yeah, I do feel that, because I feel that fitness brings concentration. Concentration is key to being able to be consistent and do the same lap after lap.
For Tony Gillam, what does that involve? What's a night in the gym, and how many nights in the gym do you spend?
We just went into a fast track fat burn, basically.
Okay.
So some real cardio, and it was
Were you beginning to tub up, Tony?
I was feeling way too fleshy.
Were you?
For me, I didn't feel very comfortable.
Because normally there's not an ounce of fat on you, it's all muscle.
Yeah. So you're a brave man to say something like that, Al.
I've been listening to Howard Stern far too much. I really have.
So we do a 2-hour, 2,000 calorie burnout, which is hour sprint on the cross trainer. Then we do a 10k run, cycle. We're losing a kilo a day. So I lost 12 kilo in just under 2 weeks.
A kilo a day?
We used to do that pre-fight. We would lose that weight for the weigh-in.
Yeah, because you used to be an athlete, a punchy athlete. Somebody punched each other.
Trying to look for the right words, aren't you, Al? It's not working.
Oh no, the scholarship's round the corner. What am I going to do? It's clear to me now you've got to be fit. Oh no. Do I look like an idiot? Don't answer that. I am clearly an idiot. But I am a motor racing fan first and foremost, and I am well aware of how fit these drivers can and should be. In my opinion, successful drivers are fit physically and therefore mentally. So here's the news flash. The second I'd been accepted onto the scholarship, I started getting fit because I knew I was overweight. There's no point me putting all this effort in if I'm still going to turn up and be unfit. It's just stupid. I can't spend all this time practicing, researching, thinking about it, dealing with it, making these videos if I'm going to just turn up and feel tubby in myself. Some people wouldn't have done it, but for me, it was a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Very early on, I set myself a goal. Now, this may seem a bit extreme. Extreme? It's like a new word I'm making up. It's like extreme, but with a ah! This may seem a little bit extreme. Sorry, I'm really having trouble with my voice as well. A lot of the time I think it'd be really easier if I was a ventriloquist. I'd just get somebody else to do this for me. This may seem a little bit extreme, but bear with me. I decided that I wanted to get down to 10% body fat. Now, in case you're unaware, that is the body fat of an athlete. Now, the reason I chose 10 was because I was watching the Le Mans coverage, and there was a driver on there talking about fitness, and he got down to 9. And I thought, that's ridiculous, let's just do 10. But there is another reason for me to do 10%. I noticed that the vast majority of the people that drive around in the Golfs for Team Hard are fairly young. I mean, for example, you've got Toby, what's he, 18 at a push? I don't even think he's ever drunk in a bar. Kiernan must be barely old enough to drive a car legally on the roads. And as for Damani, I don't know, the kid's a walking embryo. So I figured out these kids are quite young. Now, I can't compete with them because some of them do have a bit of experience in karting and stuff. So I can't compete with them in that way, but I need to at least match their physical fitness. So in order to get fit, I came up with a plan. I was going to follow the patent applied for rocket science diet. Now, if you're not aware of the rocket science diet, it's pretty straightforward. It basically involves eating less and moving more. Rocket science. There are two sections, right? The diet, that can be a pain in the bum for multiple reasons. Firstly, people tell you loads of lies about diets. People tell you loads of lies about what's going to make you lose weight. But it's simple maths. To eat less, you have to monitor what you eat, or else you'll just get it wrong. So you weigh and calculate everything you eat. Initially, this is a real pain because it takes you a while to do it. But as you progress and the more you do it, the quicker it becomes because you know how many calories everything you eat is, and then you can monitor it. Now, I don't want to come across as some kind of saint because I struggle with very specific things. The reason that I get fat is because I love KFC. Takeaway foods in general, I'll eat them all the time. But KFC, I could eat KFC every day. I could eat, if they did a KFC breakfast, which was a chicken with an egg. I mean, the ultimate. A chicken with an egg on the top. That has got to be the cruelest burger. Let's call it the family bun. The thing with the rocket science diet, the diet part of the rocket science diet is, it is straightforward, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Pies, chocolate, fizzy drinks, beer, alcohol, God. The list of lovely things that you can't eat when you're on a diet or in life is massive. But what you got to stop doing is lying to yourself and saying a little bit of that'll be all right, a little bit of this will be all right, a little bit of that. You just got to, firm it out. And for me, chocolate is easy. A week without chocolate and I won't want chocolate. But a week without KFC and I'm ready to kill my firstborn for a bargain bucket.
Oh, chicken!
The long and short of it is it's my weakness. Okay, so fitness. Now, every part of a race car has two sort of fundamental requirements. It needs to be as light as possible and as strong as possible. So why would you accept that your driver would be light and weak or large and strong? It doesn't make sense. You need your driver to be, like every other part of your car, light and strong. So I thought I'd do 3 bits of running, so I'll be as light as possible. I'll do some weights on the other days just to be as strong as possible. Much like the diet, talking about the exercise and doing it are two different things. For example, just have a look. This is what happened on my first run.
That was 20 minutes. Now, before I left the house, I didn't feel like I had... Oh, look, I'm overweight. There's no denying that, right? But I didn't feel, lardy. But when you run... Hang on, sweat in my eye. When you run, you can feel it bouncing up and down. I ran 3.46 kilometres. It's not very far, is it? At a speed of 5 minutes 50 per kilometre. And I burnt 286 calories. What's that, a Mars bar? I tell you what, it is safe to say that regardless of what happens with the scholarship and the like, getting fit's a good thing. Or I can't even laugh. Not properly. It really hurts my throat.
So that's what I did. Now, if only there was some special cinematic trick we could use to condense me going from fat to thin, from weak to strong, but also at the same time highlight all of the fun I've had so far on this journey.
Yo, Etikit, at the pub when I go out, no ID. Skip lines at the back lounge, VIP. On top of that, all drinks are free. Slow dances, dance alone. We go rage if I face that we sent back home. No plans, no bands, no curfew time. Just DJ breaks and girls that grind. Rolls in the bathroom, we don't care. If I'm doing my thing, then please don't stare. Got my own little dance square. If it's face to the stage, and you know I'm gonna dance there. Up all night and we down in the daytime. Cigarette stains playing in the daylight. Something like Hilltop, what a great night. No second chance that we live right, yeah. We on a roller coaster, no second chances, so you got to hang on tight. We living like we supposed to, going off the rails, yeah, we only get one ride. We only get one ride. We only get one ride. We only get one. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4, 5 shot, 6 shot, 7 shot floor. Drink till I can't think, sick for sure. Belly stand, but I'll last for more. If I'm refused, oh wait, that's unlikely. Close swap, mate, yeah, he look just like me. Dude psych now, cause the babe's getting feisty. Till they find out he only fresh, cause it's my tea. Wanna hit that top shelf shit, Johnny Blue Label, have a little sip. Pour it in my cup, let me scale a little bit. Wake up in the morning on a hospital drip, shit. Gotta say that's health well spent. Memories made, I already forget. And the only reminder I have is a body covered in grace, a bump on my head. We on a roller coaster, no second chances, so you got to hang on tight. We living like we supposed to, going off the rails, yeah, we only get one ride. No regrets, no turning back, no less, no more than that. I confess that I do get raw, it's the way I act, and you're never gonna change me, yo.
So I got to 11.5% and it was starting to get really tricky. Tricky for a couple of reasons. One reason, I was exercising for 13 days now out of every 14. And I was doing a couple of 10k runs every week. And it also becomes hard because at this point, KFC seemed to be everywhere. There were signs for different burgers that I couldn't eat. I mean, I could eat a burger, but it's just stodgy and disgusting food. It's deep fried. It's not good for you. It's gorgeous, but it's not good for you, so I was staying well away. But something interrupted my training in that Toby Davis, last year's scholarship winner, invited me to go to Brands Hatch because he wanted me to make a promo video for him, and it was a perfect opportunity. I'd driven round Brands Hatch Indy on the sim more times than I care to remember, but I'd never actually seen the circuit, so this would be a great opportunity to go and see Toby and the cars, but more importantly, at this stage, I'd get to go and see the circuit, so that when I arrived at the scholarship, it wouldn't be such a freak out because I've been there. So off I tried, but obviously not before I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a 10k run in. So I arrive not feeling too guilty about missing a day's training. Yep, that's how bad it got. So I get there, and it's amazing how similar things are. So I know where buildings are, and I know where the track is. But there are things that are slightly different to the sim because it's not a laser scan track, as many of the high racing fans have pointed out. So there are things that are slightly different. For example, I don't think any sim really captures how steep paddock looks the first time you see it. It looks really, really steep. Other things sort of freak me out a little bit in that I'm standing by the pits and I look at it and the lights are on the different side to the sim. But then at the same time, I'm sort of heartened to the fact that I noticed. That's how many times I've driven around the sim. But it's just great. It's amazing. And I see Toby and we're looking at the cars. Everything's really cool. And obviously Toby's got a job to do. He's there testing for the upcoming weekend. But he comes across a problem. Part of his car breaks. But rather than go home, you'll never believe what he does. He walks me around the entire circuit and talks me through all of the corners. Talks me around what's best to do where, how it's going to feel. And it's just amazing. So I'm pretty stoked, right? I'm pretty stoked. I've seen the track, spoken to Toby about the track, and I know how to drive around a lot of corners. Some of them are slightly different to the sim, so that when I get home I can change the way that I approach it, because I've just been doing it blind. Really, I've watched a lot of track videos, but he seemed to come up with some different stuff, so it's really great. And then something amazing happens in that the car's not going anywhere, so he says, well, do you want to sit in it? So I get to sit in the car, and we sit there for ages, and he goes through the whole car with me. And it's left-hand drive, but then he sort of explains that's not really an issue, you kind of get used to it. And so I leave Brands Hatch feeling pretty pumped and motivated, because the 11.5% felt like it was something that was going to stay for a while, but because of the day I spent with Toby and those extra bits of knowledge, I feel prepared. I feel like everything is linked. So I start training harder and faster and really maximising every opportunity to eat well and exercise. KFC is not a problem for me at this point, because I've got a goal. I'm ready. I am absolutely ready. So on October the 22nd, over a month before the actual scholarship, I reach 10% body fat. And I am so stoked. And all kinds of weird things start happening. For example, all of my adult life, the smallest waist I've ever had has been 32 inches. I now have to buy a 30-inch waist for my trousers. On one occasion, I went to the gym wearing my wife's size 10 gym shorts by accident and didn't notice, well, until I did the lunges, and then I did. My wedding ring becomes loose, so I can literally, if I'm not careful when I'm running or moving it, it starts to fly off. But I'm aware that it's a month before the scholarship, so even though I've reached my goal, I still need to maintain it, and it's all going all right. It's going great. I'm doing well. Everything stays as it should be. And then I went to my wife's parents for the weekend, and because they live near Bournemouth, which is by the seaside, I think what better place to go for a run than along Bournemouth Beach. So I do about a 12k run along the beach, and I'm feeling pretty motivated and pretty smug, I'll be honest. So I decided to tweet my run. So I speak to Debbie, Tony's mum, at Team Hard, and it turns out I did get the email, but it went in my junk folder. Whoops. I took the news pretty well.
Babe, you can't live in the cupboard under the stairs. What about if you need the toilet? Oh.
I can tell you the reason it was cancelled. It was cancelled because they had more financial commitments with the BTCC. All of the cars for 2017 were required to have RML kit, and that stuff's not cheap. They've got 3 cars, so they had to put their money elsewhere. And it's difficult to put into words how unfazed by the scholarship being cancelled I was. Probably easier to show you. Let me show you something. Look, these are my lanyards. You'll notice how many of them actually say Team Hard on them. In chasing this scholarship, I have had so much fun, and I've been on so many days out, and most of the time I've been a guest of someone who has not gained anything from me being there. They've just gone, you want to have a look at this? Come and have a look. You want to see that? I can get you to see that. You want to see that? Plus, because I haven't done the scholarship, I haven't failed, so in my mind I'm still a successful racing driver. Now, I'm a bit worried about you. Obviously, you've watched this. Now, if you've watched the videos from the beginning, this will seem like a bit of an anticlimax. But look, by the end of the process, even though it didn't go ahead, as a 43-year-old man who was fitter than I've ever been in my entire life, I've got an amazing computer. I've got a much better understanding of my camera and how it works and how to make videos. And the people I've met some really, really cool people. I mean, let's try and put it another way. I've strangely had what I've now seen is a stereotypical motor racing experience. I mean, this same sort of thing is mirrored throughout the paddock at every series, in every race. Take Matt Neal at Thruxton. First race, awful crash. Did he let it get him down? Initially he was a bit down, sure, but by the third race he found himself on the podium. Mike had an awful weekend at Snetterton, but by the end of the weekend he won a Jack Sears trophy. Toby at Brands Hatch even. His testing didn't go well, but by the end of the weekend he'd found himself on the podium. I've noticed that the success in motorsport is driven by the ability to take a knock, no matter how hard or heavy or heartbreaking, and bounce back from it, because in motorsport you're required to do that again and again and again. And it's because I've been around the drivers and the teams, and because of the generosity they've shown me, that I can now look you in the eyes and make the following statement with a much, much better understanding of it. The scholarship didn't happen. But hey, that's motorsport. I hope you've enjoyed the videos though. I hope you've enjoyed watching the series. And look, if you want me to make a video or knock around your garage, just say the word. I'm always game.